Oh, now there's definitely sound. Now there's definitely sound. So now I'm going to see if I need to do something over here. Edit page. I'm going to put this new one in here, paste, update. And I swear it's going to work this time. Okay, so this is the deal. I have never done this before, and clearly I am having technical difficulties, but not for long. I've totally, okay, so now I know I'm live, and if I do this, oh, let's see. Okay. Okay, put this new one in here. That should work. So let's see here. I'm going to scroll down. Okay. Try refreshing page. I know I fixed it. Okay, oops. Let me fix that. Okay. So now I know I fixed it because I see the little green green things. No sound here. Okay. Ah, let me see here. It takes like 20 seconds, I know, to let's see. I reloaded the video. So reload your web page. And oh, you got it? Yeah? I hope. Yay! And let's see. Okay. So hopefully hopefully now we've got this under control. And like I said, listen, the first is the worst. So now I have to put this away so that I can see what the hell I'm doing. And okay. Okay, so yes, I see that I am actually making sound, and that is good. Okay. So a couple new, I just learned about this items is if you want to use the chat box, the chatwing box on the web page, the web page is carolynmall.com/success-webinar1. So that's where the chat box is. And if you go to that web page instead of watching this on YouTube, you can actually tell me something. Okay, so we've got 2 people back on. I'm super, super psyched. And now I'm just going to start with content now that you can hear me. Okay, so who am I, right? So who are you watching? So my name is Carolyn Mall, and I am a lifestyle coach and fitness expert. And I have worked with clients all over the country for many, many, many years on their goals, their life goals, and sort of their, their habits that they would like to have in a more productive way. So the whole purpose behind this video today is to simply give you guys some tips to start using different mindset shifts to start changing the procrastination habits. Okay, so nobody likes procrastinating. We don't like when we do it. Nobody else around us likes it when we do it. And so why do we do it? So here's the thing, tell me if this scenario sounds familiar to you or not. It is time to get something done, or you're trying to get something done on time, even, dare I say, beforehand. And you sit down with the best intentions of getting that done. And then it's almost like there is someone else who comes into your brain. And that someone else thinks it's a way better idea to check your email. And when you check your email, there's a blog that you wanted to read. So you start to read the blog, but the blog takes you to YouTube, and oh my gosh, and there's all these videos that you have, right? And then you're like, wait a minute. I was totally gonna what? Gonna procrastinate, gonna goof around, look at crap online. Or, it doesn't even have to be online, although that's like the biggest culprit these days. But it can be at home too. Like maybe you're supposed to, clean the kitchen or something that you don't want to do. And so you get in there and you're like, oh, I'm kind of hungry. I think I'll have a snack first. Then I'll have way more energy to clean the kitchen. And then you have a snack, but then the phone rings. And then you're going to do the dishes and you put them in the dishwasher. And then you decide to go do some laundry. And you never go back to the kitchen. So what is going on, right? What is happening in our minds that is causing us to not be able to follow through with tasks? So there's a lot of distractions around us on a day-to-day basis, like tens of thousands of distractions. And so today, like I said, what I wanted to do is give you a couple tips on how to organize and prioritize, but also things to be aware of when it's happening, because a lot of times we know it's happening, right? Or at least some of the more advanced procrastinators in the group, we know when it's going down. We know it's happening. So so I'm just going to get right into content because, like I said, we've wasted tons of time with this whole, I can't hear you business. So if anybody has ever heard of the Eisenhower prioritization grid, I drew it out for you. Look, isn't that pretty? So basically, if you get a piece of paper and you draw a box on it, just like this, and in the boxes, you write 1, 2, 3, 4. So it goes from the top left is 1, top right is 2, bottom left is 3, bottom right is 4. And what Eisenhower was saying was there are tasks that are urgent and there are tasks that are important. Very, very seldom are there urgent and important tasks. So urgent means there is something going down and you have to get to it right away. Important means there's something important that you have to do, but often it's not urgent. It's just important. So this grid, I'm bringing this up because as procrastinators actually tend to do well with this, because procrastinators love to set goals. Procrastinators love goals. They like big, beautiful, fairly complicated, daydreamy goals. It's just that they don't take action on them, which is frustrating. So here it is, right? If you have one of these little charts, 1, 2, 3, 4, there are important goals and there's urgent goals. Now, in zone 1, right, you wrote down on the top left, in zone 1, those are the goals that are urgent and important. There's hardly ever that scenario. Hi, Ida. It took me that long to see that, okay? So there's urgent and there's important. Then there's just important. Then there's urgent. And then there's neither. And so herein lies the problem, right? A lot of the time, we are so focused in this box, this number 4, which is neither. None of the things that we're doing are important or urgent. They are procrastinating things. They are pissing around on the internet. They are looking at YouTube videos. They are making yourself a sandwich, right? None of those things are urgent or important. So primarily, we have to be aware of when we're doing things in number 4, because none of those things are probably what we're supposed to be doing. Number 3 are urgent things. Now, here's what happens with procrastinators. If you are somebody who puts everything off until the very last second, everything is going to seem urgent. And then there's all this panic involved too. So procrastinators know what panic feels like. You've waited until the last second, and then you need to get this thing done. And maybe it's a project, maybe it's a paper, maybe it's you said you were going to do something, and now you're running late, and you're turning in mediocre work, and you hate that, right? Because when you turn in mediocre work and mediocre projects, then you feel like you're not living up to your potential. You feel frustrated at yourself. You feel guilty. You feel all of these negative things. So I just want to acknowledge that that is a universal principle. That is a universal feeling. And you are not alone. And today we're going to talk about mindset shifts to help that, to keep that from happening quite so much. The first thing is to be aware right? So like this is action item number 1 and number 2 that we're talking about right this minute. Action item number 1 is when you look at your schedule and when you're making goals and you're making lists and you're thinking about prioritization of those goals and lists. Think about this. Think about what box that thing would fall in. There again, we've already stated that most of the things we're doing on a daily basis are number 4, which are neither urgent nor important. Pissing away the time. Number 3 is urgent. If you're doing something that's urgent, so I actually wrote, I wrote notes because I knew I'd get distracted here. What was I writing? Right, so, okay. So I was thinking about a house because there's another crazy story that I'll just tell you guys right now. I almost bought a house today. And it was very not procrastination. It was very like, oh, fly by the seat of my pants. Like, let's look at this house and oh my gosh, and maybe I'll get a pre-qualified letter. And that's what I was doing 15 minutes before sitting down here. I wasn't procrastinating. So like, okay, so here's a house chore list of how you would put things on your Eisenhower matrix thing. So say, for example, you have a gas leak. Okay, if you have a gas leak in your house, honey, that is number 1. That is urgent and important. Gas leak, bad. House could blow up. Urgent and important to get that fixed. These things rarely happen, okay? You're rarely dealing with those kind of scenarios. Number 2, there's someone knocking at your door. There's a random sales guy knocking at your door. Now, that is urgent that you go and take care of him right away. Like, I'm looking at my door. So there's someone there. It's urgent that you go open the door, but it's not important, right? So that's a number 3. What else did I put down? Oh, so like, say you're going to have a baby and you have to, set up the nursery and, you've got another 4, 5, 6 months. And that's important too, but it's not urgent. Baby's not coming for a little while. So there again, like, this is the grid. We spend hardly any time here. Things that are urgent and important. Classify these things. Number 2, these are the things that are important. We need to be working on these on a continual basis so that they don't reach number 3, which is urgent, panic, oh my gosh, last minute. And instead, we need to be wondering what we're doing so much in the number 4. Most procrastinators hang out in the number 4. I need y'all to be up here in the number 2. Okay? So before things get urgent, they can just simply be important. It's important to pursue your goals. It's important, right? To get things done and to keep things clean and to get things done on time and to plan and to execute. So how do we do that? Here's tip number 3. So there's something else. It's called the, because I'm not making these things up. This is universal problems. Pomodoro, the Pomodoro like method of scheduling out your day. That method has you actually do a task for 25 minutes. You do something for 25 minutes. Then you take 5 minutes off. Take a 5-minute break. And then you get back to the task. 25 minutes. 5 minutes off. And so that's how it goes. Like, you can actually schedule your day. And if you are a chronic procrastinator, you know you need to schedule your day. If you don't write stuff down, it doesn't get done, right? So when you're thinking about what number is it about, then you've got 25 minutes to do an important task, to get something done. The 5 minutes you can spend in zone number 4. Goof around. Go make a sandwich. Go to the bathroom. Watch a video. 5 minutes. Give yourself permission. Because the other thing with procrastinators is we get burned out. We'll, if we can, like, harness our energy and get into the zone of actually getting something done, we tend to burn out kind of quickly on that too. And then we're like exhausted because we like just do it for 8 hours and then it's like, oh my God, that was horrible. So 25 and 5. There are actually apps, of course. There's apps, there's timers that you can set on your phone, on your computer. So you can make it you could try this. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm saying there are methods out there that work for other people. So you're scheduling your day. You're like, okay, this is definitely number 2. This is important to get done. This is important to get done. You're prioritizing things. You're setting them up in 25-minute blocks. You take a 5-minute break. You get up, you walk around, take some deep breaths, get a drink of water. Sounds like a good idea. And then you move on to the next 25-minute block of time. 25 minutes is doable. So that's number 2. I'm sorry, that's number 3. So there are other things, right? Steering clear of distractions. I know. We live in a world that is full of distractions. So when I say, oh, steer clear of distractions, that's like saying go live in a cave, right? It's just not going to happen. Here is the key. This is the number 4, right? So we talked about the grid. We talked about prioritization. We talked about, I don't know, what else did we talk about? We talked about all kinds of stuff. But the number 4 tip that I have for you is the mindfulness tip. So understand now that some of your tasks are going to be falling into this 4 category. I need you to start recognizing when you are doing the number 4 tasks, okay? I need you to just be aware of the fact that you're doing something completely unproductive during a time that you set aside to be productive. So that's the number 3 thing, right? The Pomodoro method is you have set aside times to be productive. They have a definite beginning and a definite end. They're only in 25-minute chunks. You can do that. If during the 25-minute chunk you get off task, you feel yourself slipping down the rabbit hole or wanting to go, like I said, make a sandwich, I need you to just simply be aware of that. Because this is where things shift, okay? This is where the guilt goes away. Because once you take a moment and say, man, here I go again. I recognize that I'm doing something that is not part of the plan. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this right now. You can actually turn everything around and get back on task. If 13 minutes into what you're supposed to be doing hits and you're like looking around for a piece of bread, be aware of what you're doing and say, oh, I'm doing it again. I'm doing it again where I'm letting myself be distracted. I'm kind of procrastinating from the task at hand. And I'm actually going to choose to get back to work because now there's only 12 more minutes. I can do that. I'm going to make my sandwich in 12 minutes and then get back to work. You can actually talk yourself out of procrastinating, but you have to be aware that you're doing it first, and then you have to tolerate it. And that's what I said earlier, like nothing is going to change today. Nothing is going to change today, except you've got a couple new tools to use, right, to help you. But overcoming procrastination as a habit starts with being very mindful of when you're doing it, okay? So, like I said, you have to understand that it's going to happen, and you have to be aware enough to say, oh, it's happening again. Why did I do that? I guess I'm bored. Am I really bored? And then why are you bored? Like, are you not putting your all into the project? Is there something that you should be doing otherwise? Did you classify this as important and it's really not? Like, take a minute, think about it, be mindful, right? So when you see like, oh, you need a mindfulness practice and you need this and you need that and go meditate and write in a journal, really all you need to do is simply be more aware of your day-to-day, moment-to-moment actions. So when you can tolerate yourself, when you can see when you're procrastinating, when you can see when you're off track, and when you can steer yourself back onto course just for the rest of that 25-minute chunk, that boosts your self-esteem. Then you're like, man, I did it. I did it. I was going down the dark road, but instead I caught myself, I turned the flashlight on, and I came back. And that is something that boosts your self-esteem, as opposed to belittling yourself and berating yourself all the time, like, man, I did it again. I didn't get shit done today. I was supposed to do this, and now I'm at the last minute, deadline's coming, and there's that negative cycle. But if you can start to change how you feel about yourself, the procrastination thing is no longer a problem. If you set up a system and a structure for yourself that you can live with, okay? And when I say 25 and 5, that's a proven method that works for a lot of people. I mean, it has a name, it has an app, it must be something. But if your preferred time is like 45 minutes or 50 minutes, you want to do a 50-minute block and then take 10 minutes off, that's fine if it works for you. I like those longer periods because once I get going on something, I need to follow my train of thought. So a 50-10 ratio works good for me. There's some people who just can't sit still that long. It's cool. So there again, you're going to prioritize your day, the tasks, what you need to get done, what is not important, what is not urgent goes away, okay? Pare things down. And then you're going to structure your day in 25-minute chunks or 50-10, whichever, schedule in your breaks where you get to goof off. And you're allowed to goof off. Because here's the other thing. When you catch yourself goofing off instead of getting your work done, you oftentimes feel like, oh, I'm doing something bad. I'm doing something wrong. I hope no one catches me. But when you actually structure the time in, you actually schedule the goofing off time, you're allowed to do it. It's no big deal. There's no guilt involved then. And that is something that I hope for more people. I hope that more of us can have less guilt. Put less guilt on ourselves, quit blaming ourselves, quit talking down about ourselves. And the thing with procrastinating, not getting things done and waiting till the last minute, is that we feel like we're useless for most of the time because we're not accomplishing the things that we say we're going to do. And when we feel useless and when we feel like we're not living up to our potential, that is depressing. It's depressing. But it's only a story that we're telling ourselves in our head, okay? No one else is saying those things. So I really want you to work on being mindful of whatever you're doing. So like even starting this webinar, I had to go ahead and say to myself before I got started, listen, if it's not perfect, it's still okay. That does not reflect on you as a person. You have to learn somehow. Like we all have a learning curve. And learning how to break a procrastination habit goes along with the same thing. You set yourself up, it might not always work out exactly the way you thought. But if you can go back, self-correct, course correct, time and time again, pretty soon you're going to have more wins than you are fails. And every time you have one of those wins, up goes the self-esteem, right? So that's number 4, is practicing mindfulness and letting go of guilt. So it's learning how to tolerate yourself. It's learning how to forgive yourself for just being the way you are, for having almost like 2 brains in your head, right? One is the force for good and productivity, and the other is like, the party girl who just wants to goof around all day. So those are the 4 things that I have. If anybody wants to type anything in the chat box, if you want to ask me a question, if you want to add something like, have you ever used this before? Did it work for you? What was your experience with it? I would love to hear about that. There again, I have found that it takes about 20 seconds for me to say something and for you to hear it. So that's a little bit, that's a little bit irritating and not my favorite thing. So I understand that I'm still talking because I'm sort of waiting to see if you're going to type anything in the chat box. I'm trying to think of anything else that I wrote down in my notes. I'll just read you what they are. Yeah, so we talked about prioritizing tasks based on urgency and impact. That's the grid. We talked about steering clear of common distractions and how really, like, if someone says that to you, it's such bullshit, right? It's like, really? Instead, you have to schedule in your distraction time. So that's the Pomodoro thing, the 25-5 or the 50-10. And then the last one is the mindfully redirecting yourself. Course correct, whenever you need to. And when you do that, you help yourself to feel like you're succeeding. And yes, it's a win. And yes, your self-esteem goes up. And yes, things get done on time. And yes, 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 right? So, being aware of procrastination, not blaming yourself, adjusting your rules. I have people calling me and we don't need to talk to them right now, do we? Oh yeah, you know what I wrote? I said, be motivational towards yourself instead of critical. Let's see. What does Ida say? Thank you for writing something, Ida. That's lovely. What do you do when there are interruptions you cannot control? I keep my phone with me for my employees to contact me if needed. Okay, so see what I just did? Like, that was a great timing thing. So someone was calling me. I know I'm only going to be on here another 5 or 10 minutes. I'm going to call them back. Because when there's chunks of time set aside to do one thing, you have to train yourself to do one thing. So like, okay, so it's in place. And I know you have a business where there are kids involved, which always is like variety and stuff. So you have to tell them if it's urgent. Like if it is urgent, type all in caps. Or if it's urgent, say 911 and then write the message. Otherwise, when they're calling or when they're texting you, have them just, it's about training people. Honestly, like if you train people to expect that you're going to get back to them within the hour or within a half an hour, then they know what to expect. If you train people that you're going to respond right away, then they expect you to respond right away. And really, like I've made this mistake before too, like even with clients and having boundaries, right? Because if people think they can contact you all the time and you get back to them right away, well, then you're training them to interrupt you all the time. And that's kind of why the 25-5 rule works good, I think, is because if you can set aside 25 minutes of uninterrupted time, you can get a lot of stuff done. And then you've got the 5 minutes, you return your calls, you return texts, and you do what's needed, because probably the world isn't going to go down in flames in the 20 minutes between when you respond and when you get the message. There again, if it's urgent, those things hardly ever happen, right? That's box 1. So urgent and important, hardly ever, hardly ever. Yes, I do. I get back to people very quickly. So right, so you've trained them that's what's going to happen. So then you have 2 choices. You can either stick with that and try to get right back to what you're doing. I have a really hard time with that. Like once I'm distracted, it's distracting. So I have it in my mind set, like somebody's going to call me and that's fine. I'll get back to them when I'm done here. If it's urgent, I'll get another call. I'll get a 911. I'll get some kind of message. But otherwise, I'll get back to you in just a second. I'm doing something that's important right now. If you have to retrain people, you have to explain to them what you're doing. So it just takes a little bit of retraining for yourself and for them, and letting go of the guilt, right? Like if you feel like, oh, I have to respond right now, and if you don't, you feel like you're being bad or irresponsible, or you feel guilt in some way. That's the mindfulness training again. Like take a moment and say, okay, well, wait a minute, what's really going on here? Should I feel guilty for this? Am I doing something on purpose to hurt someone? And of course you're not. You know what I mean? Like you would never do that. So you can know that all is well. Everyone has everything they need in the moment, and you're going to get back to them as soon as you're done with your chunk of time. So hopefully that helps. Does anybody else have anything else for me? There again, if you type into the chat box, it takes like 20 seconds for me to see it, to get into it. But yeah, another thing to do to lessen distractions, right, is to have something in a different screen on your computer. So like I have 2 screens going right now, like my screen where I can basically see myself and make sure like things are working. And then another screen where all of my tabs are open. I can't see any of that. Because if I knew that all of these emails were coming in, you're welcome, baby, then that would be very distracting for me. So you can have things like if you're bad at trying to get back to people right away, you can hide your phone. You can put it in a different room. You can put it in a drawer. You turn off the sound. You put it in a drawer, and you don't look at it for the 25 minutes. I promise you, it's gonna be okay. And this is a whole nother webinar, this topic on attachment. Okay, like I should do that next on attachment, because like seriously, if you ask like a teenager to hand you their cell phone, they will start to go into convulsions. Like, we have a huge problem right now in our world with attachment to technology. And clearly, I mean, I have it too, to a certain extent. So I consciously have to work on letting go of that. You know, like when I go for walks, I leave my phone at home. I do not take my phone, and I go out the door and I walk for 5 miles without any technology. No headphones, no iPhone, nothing. I just have to decompress because I spend a lot of time in front of the computer. And I just don't think it's perfectly healthy, like, to do all the time. So I charge my cell phone not on my pillow next to me, right? And so, yeah, I just says, my phone is always with me. I know, sister, it is totally crazy. Like the other day, I got into my car and I started driving to the gym, and I realized, like, oh my God, I don't have my phone. I totally left my phone at home because it was charging in another room. And I had to like think about turning around. I totally thought about turning around and getting my phone. I'm in the car driving. I'm halfway to the gym. And seriously, like, let's be honest, the gym is 6 minutes away. So I thought about it for a minute and I was like, am I nuts? I don't need it. I don't need it to go to the gym. I don't need it. I can work out without my phone. So I did. I went to the gym and I didn't have my phone. And then I got back in my car after my workout and I still didn't have my phone. And that's normally when I'm like, oh, what happened while I was working out? And I lived. I'm here to tell you, like, it's okay. And there's this kind of freeing feeling too, like when you don't have your phone with you anymore. Yeah. So procrastination, attachment to technology, we are just, it's a problem, but it's not one that we can't overcome. So hopefully you guys have gotten something out of our time together here. And if nothing else, I really hope that you think about ways to let go of some of the guilt, right? It's just not worth it. So again, one more recap. Look at your day for tomorrow. I know it's Friday, but look at your day anyhow. Look at your day for tomorrow. See what you have on the calendar. Prioritize those tasks with our handy little 1, 2, 3, 4 business. You're not going to see ones on there, okay? Try to make sure most of them are 2s. And then you're going to set up a timer or an app or something. And so try the 25-5. And then maybe on Monday, try the 50-10. Or if you work over the weekend, try it over the weekend. And then you are going to notice when you are getting off track, when you're in zone 4, when you're supposed to be in zone 2, you're going to notice that. And you're going to course correct. You're going to pat yourself on the back, be like, yeah, I did what I said I was going to do. And wow, that was cool. If I did it once, I could do it again. And I'm just trying to see if I had anything else on my notes, because I think the only other thing I wrote down, you guys, honestly, is when you see yourself doing well and when you see yourself lessening the procrastination habit, celebrate that. Acknowledge that. Be like, wow, I was so freaking productive today. Like, that rocks. And so the more you acknowledge the things that are going well, the more things will go well. So I will acknowledge now that I think I got through my first webinar. I think that people heard me, the chat box worked, and I only had to do it twice. So yay, so that was a success, and now I know what I have to do better next time. So big celebration here. I hope that you guys have a great night. Thank you for spending so much time with me today. And I'll do, last time, if you're still here, I'm going to do another lifestyle design challenge next week on Monday. So if you haven't signed up yet, right below your little box here, right below the chat box, is a link to sign up for it. It's free. It's 7 days. It is a 3-minute video and one simple task to do that day that involves either wellness, relationships, assets, leadership, time, and creating more happiness. So that's the WEALTH acronym. So consider signing up for that, and I will talk to you guys soon. Again, thank you so much for bearing with me. I appreciate it. Okay, love you. Bye.